If nothing's done, if no significant changes are made, if everyone just waits for players to get healthy again, this team will be completely fine. Just not for long. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates that I hope you'll check out. Penguins versus Senators again tonight at PPG Paints Arena. It's a 7:08 p.m. face-off, a rematch of the 5-4 overtime loss that I covered up in Ottawa. And look, I said it earlier this week. I'm going to repeat it here. These are not good matchups for the local club, meaning these young, fast teams that just go zipping all over the place and honestly make the Penguins look old. And I know that they actually are old, but this makes them look old. And that can be a pretty embarrassing, even emasculating experience. There's nothing in hockey that brings out the macho in people quite like skating. It's all about skating. You can be the guy who shoots the puck the hardest. You can be the one that's got all the fancy moves. But there's nothing that compares to just plain old skating. Guy can either skate or he can't. As a small example, one of the individuals, maybe the most out of any of the individuals on the team last year, the guys inside the team would get awed by was Mike Matheson. They just, wow, like he was just born with this incredible gift, the unbelievable stop and start ability and everything else that he's got, that anything else that Matheson did, like missing the net all the time, like not really producing anywhere near the number of points he should have, never mind the defensive lapses, didn't matter. He was, to them, Mike Matheson, hockey god. And that's just the culture. That's hockey at all levels, to be honest with you, not just at the NHL level. And this team doesn't have enough of that. There are a couple of superior skaters, obviously. In terms of speed, it's tough to top Kasperi Kapanen and Brian Rust. Really, anybody in the league in terms of what's the best way to describe Chris Letang's skating? It's artful. It's elegant. He has all kinds of different shortcuts to get from point A to point B, including twisting himself around and everything else. He's really, really, really good at it. It's just a superior skater. But you know, even the guys who can skate, once you have fatigue set in or age set in, it gets a little bit exposed. Don't make me the guy. Don't make me be the guy, I should say, who brings up Tim Stützle dancing around Sidney Crosby for his goal a couple nights ago in Ottawa. That's a tough thing to watch. Now, granted, Sid kind of leaned in the wrong direction more than anything else. And Stützle did a really, really good job of going right, then left. But my goodness, Stützle created for himself an entire highway to go right down the slot and pick his spot on Casey DeSmith. That's yuck, you know? But here's where this team is. This is it. And now they're going to go and play this team again, this opponent again. Then they're going to play the Devils on Sunday, who are not only fast, but also a lot deeper than Ottawa. And time and again, eventually, these things are going to get exposed. And yet, the status quo is going to remain the status quo, meaning Ron Hextall, and to whatever extent Brian Burke is involved or influential, also him, are going to look at this roster and say, yeah, but from mid-November to mid-December, we were the best team in the National Hockey League when we had all our people. And they did. They were almost completely healthy. And all we need to do is to get that back and everything's going to be okay. It won't. It won't. It won't. It will for a little while. And some of us will be able to convince ourselves, hey, maybe they were right. This was definitely the thing to do here. So once you get Chris Letang, Jeff Petrie, and Jan Ruda back, well, you have your entire right side of the defense. How about that? Once you get Tristan Jarry back, you go from a career 900 save percentage that Casey DeSmith carries to maybe the 935 that Jarry showed through that month. Big, big, big difference when it comes to winning hockey games, right? Power play can get back to where it was. The penalty kill can get back to where it's been most of the season once you have Ryan Poehling and Josh Archibald back. I didn't even mention them. But you won't overcome this lack of a third or fourth line. You won't overcome leaning on Kapanen, Jeff Carter, Danton Heinen, Teddy Bluger, and all the rest of these guys for your energy, for your spark. You'll get some of that from Archibald, who's been, for me, a pleasant surprise. I'll acknowledge when I'm wrong about somebody. I didn't like the signing at first, and, swing and miss on my end. You'll get some of that from him. You're not going to get a ton. You're not going to get Jason Zucker. And what this team needs more than anything else, even setting aside Zucker's skill level, which is a top 6 skill level, you need players running around like that, flying around like that, making a difference, forechecking, keeping everybody hemmed in. I asked Bluger about this very subject in Ottawa, and this was his reply. Teddy Bluger, we talked a lot about energy with this team, being active in the right spots and everything. How much of that has to come from the third and fourth line?
Yeah, probably quite a bit. It has to come from everyone, obviously. I think everyone's got to take initiative, and once a couple people get going, that kind of gets everyone else in the mix. And I think it's kind of like I don't know what do you call it, like a cycle effect almost, where it's contagious a little bit. So, so I think it's got to come from everyone.
It sounds good, but Teddy's got to get it done too. He can't be waiting for Brandon Tanev and Zach Aston Reese to show up in the locker room later today. It's not going to happen. And for that matter, he can't hold off for Poehling and Archibald to return. At some point, these guys either have to get it done or get going. When we come back, J1Q. Tim, who says, hey, DK, how hot are Hextall's and Burke's seats right now? Injuries happen, and you hope that your injured players can come back fully healthy and play to their potential and all that other stuff, but hope isn't a plan. You've discussed Carter, Dumo, and Kapanen at length, so how do you fix this team going into the playoffs? No playoffs or another early exit? Does FSG find a new front office? Well, there's a lot to unpack there, Tim. I can tell you're pretty frustrated, and I don't dispute a syllable of what you wrote there in terms of matching a sentiment with my own. It's not a good outlook for this team, and I'll say that if they club the Senators tonight and club the Devils on Sunday, this isn't a formula that's going to get you anywhere. I do respect and appreciate, and I mean this, that this has become a tight group, that there's a lot of camaraderie. It's not fake. One individual in Ottawa who was on the trip shared with me that they felt it's the tightest this group has been, this team has been since the recent Cup years. And that's been my experience in dealing with them individually as well. Great. Wonderful. Doesn't matter. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter when the on-ice product involves a third line and a fourth line that bring you absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter when Jeff Carter can't defend to save his life, when he has a 2-on-1 like he did a couple nights ago in Ottawa, that he can't even get a pass off, like just a routine pass or a shot. I don't even know how you describe that. I'm sure you remember the play. Just nothing happened. Nothing. Zero. It was just like a forfeit. I don't have to go over all of Dumoulin's giveaways and everything. It certainly doesn't sound like I'd have to convince you of anything on these fronts, Tim. They're not the answer. They're not about to get good. They're not about to find some other gear. Mike Sullivan spoke on this Ottawa trip about Dumoulin playing some of the best hockey of the year and everything else. And he's been leading the team in ice time because he's one of the only guys you can put out there in multiple situations who has the experience for it. And again, I can simultaneously say that, I tip my cap to everything that they've done, both Dumoulin and Carter, but that, I mean, they're not it. They're not getting you a Stanley Cup. They're not getting you maybe even a playoff spot. And you're going to have to make a move at some point if you're this GM. And if you don't, or you can't, then to what you're saying, that's when ownership needs to be paying close attention. Now, are they? I don't know. You don't see them. It's not the same as when you'd see Mario, you'd see, Ron Burkle. I'd be able to at least kick up a little bit of a conversation with one or sometimes both. Just say, hey, what's going on right now? What do you think? And I'd get some feedback, and it would, especially with Mario, everything would be off the record, but you'd at least know. And you'd know, specifically to this count, that he was watching. I'm sure he's still watching. He just doesn't have the pull that he used to whenever he was, the guy or one of the two guys. So I don't know. For me to presume that FSG is keeping it, Tom Werner is keeping some sort of really close eye on this operation and thinking to himself, man, these third and fourth lines are killing us. That feels like a bit of a stretch. It really does. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll do another one of these Monday.